There is a story of a man who stood in the middle of a crowded room, laughter swirling around him like leaves in the wind, and yet he felt a quiet ache, a sadness with no name, no origin, as if the weight of the sky had settled into his bones without warning. Have you ever wondered why the heart sometimes drowns in its own depths, even when the world offers no reason? Why do we carry this invisible sorrow, this quiet storm that arrives uninvited, unexplained? Is it a flaw in our design, or is it something far more profound? Could it be that sadness without cause is not an absence of meaning, but the presence of something deeper calling to us? We live in a world that demands reasons for everything, labels, diagnoses, explanations, as if emotions must always be tethered to events, as if the heart must justify its tides. But what if the untethered sadness is not a malfunction, but a message, a whisper from a place within us that knows truths our minds have yet to grasp? This is not a speech about depression. This is a speech about the shadows that move beneath the surface of our awareness, about the parts of us that remember what we have forgotten. The ancient Greeks called it melancholia, not as a sickness, but as a sacred stirring, a touch of the divine, a reminder that we are more than the sum of our daily lives. The Stoics knew it too, this quiet ache that visits like an old friend, not to break us, but to awaken us. So let us begin there, in the hush of that understanding, and see what emerges from the silence. Imagine a woman who wakes one morning, the sun spilling gold across her floor, her life perfectly intact. No loss, no tragedy, and yet her hands tremble with a grief she cannot name. What does she do with this feeling? Does she dismiss it as irrational, or does she dare to sit with it, to ask what it wants to show her? The world will tell her to medicate it, to distract it, to fill the void with noise. But the poets ask a different question. What if the void is not empty? What if it is a doorway? Rilke wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act just once with beauty and courage." Could our unexplained sadness be such a dragon? A thing we fear until we face it, until we learn what it guards. Think of the ocean. Its surface dances with light, but its depths are dark, uncharted, full of creatures we have never seen. Our sadness is like that. It comes from a place we have not yet explored, a depth we have not dared to descend. And so we ask, what lies beneath? What ancient sorrows? What unspoken longings? What buried truths are waiting to be acknowledged? There is a moment in every life when the heart aches for no reason, and in that moment, a choice is offered. We can turn away, bury it in busyness, in blame, in the shallow comforts of the world. Or we can turn toward it, as one turns toward a stranger in the night, and ask, "What are you trying to tell me?" The Buddhists speak of the second arrow. The first arrow is the pain. The second arrow is the story we tell about it, the shame, the fear, the resistance. But what if we did not shoot the second arrow? What if we let the sadness be without judgment, without demand, as one lets a cloud pass across the sky? Consider the story of a tree that grows in a crack of stone. It does not ask why the stone is there, why the earth is hard. It simply grows, roots deepening, until one day the stone splits, not because the tree fought it, but because it trusted its own slow, patient becoming. Our sadness is like that stone. It is not here to crush us, but to teach us how to grow in ways we never imagined. And now, a question for you. Have you ever stood at the edge of your own sadness, not to run from it, but to listen, not to fix it, but to let it speak? The philosopher Kierkegaard said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." Perhaps our unexplained sorrow is a glimpse of that backward understanding, a fragment of a truth we are not yet ready to see. This is the gift of the unnameable ache, not emptiness, but depth, not brokenness, but the quiet call of a self that knows more than we do. The Stoics taught that pain is not the enemy, but the teacher, that the obstacle is the way. So what if our sadness is not a wall, but a path? Ask yourself, what would happen if you stopped treating your sadness as a problem to be solved and started treating it as a place to be visited? What if, instead of asking, "Why do I feel this way?" you asked, "What is this feeling asking of me?" There is a story of a man who climbed a mountain to find a sage. When he reached the top, he fell to his knees and cried, "Tell me how to be happy." The sage handed him a cup of tea and said, "First, learn how to be sad." The world rushes toward joy, toward light, toward constant affirmation. But the single most profound truth may be this: we do not find ourselves in the light. We find ourselves in the shadows, in the unclaimed, unexplained corners of our hearts. And if you're still here, if you've felt the weight and the wonder of these words, then you understand why we must keep going. There is more to uncover, more to feel. So stay with me. Like and subscribe, not because I ask you to, but because you sense, as I do, that this conversation is just beginning. Because the truth is this: your sadness is not your enemy. It is the quietest, most honest part of you. And if you dare to sit with it, to listen, you may hear the one thing you've been waiting for. The voice that says, "I am here. I have always been here, and I am not what you fear. I am what you've been searching for." So let me ask you again, what if your sadness is not a wound, but a compass? What if it is not pulling you under, but leading you home? The world tells us that emotions must have causes, that if we dig deep enough, we'll uncover some hidden trauma, some unmet need, some logical reason for the ache. But the poets and the mystics whisper a different truth. Some sorrows are not meant to be dissected. They are meant to be sat with, like a fire in the dark, until we learn what warmth they carry. Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Could it be that our unexplained sadness is not a wound at all, but the light itself, brighter than we're ready for, aching in a way we don't yet understand? Imagine a woman walking through an empty house at dusk. The rooms are familiar, the furniture just where she left it, and yet something feels different. Not wrong, not broken, just unfinished, as if the house is waiting for a guest who never arrives. She checks the doors, the windows, but there is no draft, no intruder, only the quiet and the strange longing that settles in her ribs like an old song half remembered. What is that feeling? Is it loneliness, or is it the opposite, the presence of something so vast it can only be felt as absence? The Sufis call it ishq, the divine ache. The Buddhists call it dukkha, the gentle hum of existence that reminds us we are alive. The philosophers ask, what if this sadness is not yours to carry, but yours to surrender? There is a moment in every life when the heart cracks open for no reason, and in that moment, a choice. Do you reach for the glue, or do you let the light pour through? The Stoics taught that pain is not the enemy. It is the invitation to meet yourself where you are, not where you wish you were. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journals, not to a lover, not to a god, but to his own soul. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Could he have been speaking to us? To this very moment, this sadness without cause? Think of a tree in winter. It does not mourn its bare branches. It does not beg the sky for leaves. It stands patient, knowing that the thaw will come. But what if winter is not the waiting? What if winter is the point? What if your sadness is not the absence of joy, but the presence of something older, wiser, a season of the soul that knows exactly what it's doing? Here is a question that changes everything. What if you trusted it? Trusted that this feeling, however heavy, is not here to bury you, but to root you. That the weight in your chest is not an anchor, but wings folded tight, waiting for the right wind. The world will rush to give you answers. Take this pill, read this book, follow this path. As if sadness were a problem to be fixed rather than a terrain to be explored. But you know better now. You felt the way the air changes just before the rain, the way the earth holds its breath in the last moments of dusk. This is where the real work begins. Not in chasing the sadness away, but in asking, what does it want to show me? There is a story of a man who climbed a mountain to ask a sage the meaning of life. When he reached the summit, exhausted, the sage handed him a cup of tea and said, "The meaning of life is at the bottom of this cup." The man drank eagerly, but when he reached the bottom, he saw only his own reflection. Your sadness is like that cup. It is not hiding anything from you. It is showing you. So let me ask you again, not as a teacher, but as a fellow traveler. What if you stopped treating this feeling like a mistake? What if you stopped waiting for it to leave and started listening to what it's trying to say? The mystics say that God speaks in whispers and the world speaks in shouts. Perhaps sadness is the pause between the two, the silence where the truth waits. And if you're still here, if these words resonate like a bell in your chest, then you already know. This is not the end. This is the threshold. So stay, like and subscribe, not for me, but for you, because something in you is waking up.